Hello everyone, it's Elizabeth again, and I'm here to do the covers for my junk journal. In this case, it's the one that's supposed to be a little bit steampunk. So to do the covers, I've already folded these into signatures, but I haven't changed the foredge on them, which will happen after I put the book together. I like to do it that way. To do the covers, I'm going to use a piece of this stuff, which is called Kraft Tex, Kraftex. It is a piece of paper that acts like fabric to some degree. You can wash it, you can sew it, you can cut it, of course, like paper, and it feels like a very thick paper. It almost looks like leather if you do certain treatments to it, such as wash it and then stain it or whatever. I've used this in other book bindings, and I just love the way that it works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a 5.5 inch front piece for it. That will be a hard cover, and it's going to have an inside and an outside to it. So that will be the front cover. Then the back part of it will be soft cover, like that. And these will be sewn in, the signatures will be sewn in. And then there will be a back cover to it. So what I'm going to do today is to go ahead and glue up the front and back covers to the pieces of paper that I've decided to make the covers with. So I already designated which boards were going to be the outsides and which were going to be the insides, and you can see if you look here closely, you can see that the ones for the outside are a smidge, like a 1/16 of an inch larger than the ones for the inside. And that accommodates the fact that there will be, the Kraft Tex will be between these and then come out behind it. And so the inside one needs to be a little bit tiny bit shorter. But if it isn't, then it really doesn't hurt, because in your front will just show a little bit more of the actual Kraft Tex stuff. Okay, so to get started, I had originally thought that I would use this as the outside cover and maybe this as the inside, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to use this as the outside cover and this is the inside, because this is, you have to admit, this is much more dynamic, so it's going to be more beautiful. So what I do is to decide on a part of it that I like. And I know that I need to get two covers out of here, the two outside pieces, the front and the back. And I want the more dynamic one, of course, on the front. Now, I think that's, well, actually, I like both of them. But you can see how much is going to be shown. So about that much is going to be shown either up at the top or down at the bottom. And then again, about that much over here, because you can't get it too close to the edge, because of course you have to wrap that around your board. And I think that I'm going to make this the back and this part the front. So when I turn it over, and we could switch it top to bottom too. I mean, do we want this part right here, or do we want this? I think I'm going to make that part the back. I think maybe that part the front. Let's see what that'll look like. Decisions. I don't really like this cog, but I like that. Maybe I'll go up there with it and just get the corner of that. Okay, let's turn it around and see if it makes a difference. Sometimes you look at something one way and you look at it the other way and you like it one way better than the other. I think that'll do, this part right here for the front. So when I turn this over, I have to remember that the front is going to be on this side. So just turn it over like that. And we'll go ahead and draw a rectangle where this board is, so that we'll know where we're going to put it once we do our glue. And then the back was a corresponding piece. Look at that again. And it was on this side. So we'll do that. And the little T here means top. So I have top, front, top, back, and then I have the inside pieces, which will go on the other piece of paper. And we'll do this. And then after I've glued these, I use Yes Paste. After I've glued these, then I will want to put them under some heavy some weight, so that they will be nice, really glued to it. Now, come on, paste, open up. So they'll be really, stuck to it. We don't want to have anything, any little gaps or anything from that. And when you're doing glue, like Yes Paste or any gluing, you really should glue to the stiffer surface. So in this case, the board is more rigid than the paper is. So we'll put our glue on the board and then adhere it to the paper. One reason is that the glue does soak in some, and if it soaks into your paper, then your board may not have enough of the sticky at the top to stick to your board. Besides, the board's easier to have more sticky stuff soak into it, because then it doesn't warp the paper as much, and that's something you don't want to do too. When you're putting this down here, you want to make sure you've got your glue to all edges, which we do. And we can put that right in that little rectangle that we've made. And you want to make sure that you press that down evenly. You can see it does, still moves, so I can move it around. And we also want to make sure that it has adhered and doesn't have any bubbles on the front. So when we get ready to do this, we want to put a piece of paper between our, and of course I don't have, oh, here's my piece of paper, yes. Piece of paper between that and that, when we use our bone folder to smooth that. And I do need to go get a wet paper towel to wipe my fingers on, because I do have some glue on them, so I will be right back. I did not prepare as well as I should. So now everything's clean again. And we'll just lay that in the lid so that we don't get it wet everywhere. And it's not really a wet piece of paper. A wet paper towel. It's kind of a lightly damp paper towel. But you can see that there are no raised parts on that would indicate a bubble in there. So we have one piece glued, and we'll do our next piece, which is the back. And if this gets boring, just fast forward through it. It won't take me hardly any time to do this part. And then I'll show you how we do our Kraft Tex to get it ready to be the actual binding, the actual back, and where we're going to put our holes for our signatures and all the rest of that stuff. Make sure you've got the edge, and you can look at this and of course see if it's slicky looking. I cut these boards the other day. They are 8.5 tall by 5.5 inches wide, and they were actually boards that were on a drawing tablet. Now if you get extra glue out here, you do want to clean that off, because you don't want any lumps when you get ready to turn that and glue it around the board. And if you have lumps there, it can make it not beautiful on the edges. Okay, so we're going to turn this over again so we can make sure this one's glued properly. And it looks pretty good. If you wear rings, you want to make sure that you don't scratch your painting with your rings. So again, putting a piece of paper on there, even as you're smoothing it with your hand, can be a good thing too. Because rings can scratch things. And if you have silver rings, you can do what's called silver point, which means that you can draw on things with your rings. Makes a really nice light gray line. Silver line, of course, not gray. Okay, so those two we'll put aside to dry. And let me get the other two. And for the inside, I like most of this totally, so we'll just turn it over and get started. We'll make one for the back, inside front, inside back, top and top. And it doesn't matter that I've got it close to the edge and that the edge has a little bit of white there, because that's going to be inside of the cover pieces and you'll never see that. But I do like to still draw a line around it just to remind myself where I'm placing that. Okay. This Yes paste I have thinned with probably this amount of Yes paste to probably 3 tablespoons of water at the most, probably 2 tablespoons in this case, because this is a little bit thicker than I use it sometimes. I want it to be anywhere from like margarine in a tub thickness, you know, something that's relatively thick, not syrup thin, not quite that thin. But you can see how it comes out and looks like nice paste. You could do this with glue stick, but the glue stick would tend to dry before you got it finished because your glue stick starts out drier. You could do it with a wet glue, but your wet glue would make your paper warp more, so the Yes paste is a really nice alternative to any of those. And Yes paste is available at most art supply stores. I know Dick Blick has it. Our local Preston's Art Center has it. There are, you know, ones across the country that will have Yes paste. I think that some of your local hobby stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's and Joann's may have it as well, but I haven't really looked for it there because I had a big bottle of it that I haven't used up yet. Okay, one more. You can check this. Yep, looks good. Okay, just do the other one and then we'll flip them both over. Look at them together. And this brush was a nice painting brush until the brush handle became loose, and I said, that'll make a nice glue brush. And I stuffed paper towel in it so it wouldn't get glued down inside it. But it resides in my little glue container, and therefore it's always at the ready. I don't have to go looking for it, and it works really well. It's kind of a nice soft, you can see how soft those bristles are, and it just spreads really nicely, spreads the glue really nicely. You can use one that's a little stiffer than that, but yeah, this works. And then I got a bunch on the edge, so I'm going to take that off with my finger real quick because we don't need that. The extra will just make it a mess. So put that down. Should have checked to make sure I was in camera, but I'm sure that you'll understand about gluing things. It's pretty simple. Okay, so let's turn these over. Make sure everybody's down like they should be. Take my paper. Okay. Everything feels smooth. So let me go put these under, quickly put them under some weights. Of course, all my weights are in use. Let me get these magazines. They'll work. I'll be right back. Except, of course, they fall on the floor. I give up. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so now for the cover, we're going to have, let me put away that before I make a mess with that. Put away my glue stuff. I used 2 pieces of wax paper on top so it won't stick. And I thought I had you looking at the edge more. Well, I hope I was in camera. I'll have to look at this. I hope it's usable. Unfortunately. Okay, so this is going to have, let's plan this out. We're going to have a sheet of paper. It's going to be the cover, and we're going to have first 5.5 inches, because this is 8.5 inches high, of course. Okay, so that's taken care of. So we're going to have 5.5 inches first. And then we need to have room for 6 signatures. So we're going to have 6 signatures in here. So we'll just draw lines for them, and we're not drawing them to scale by any means. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll have another bend. So this will be a bend right here. And this will be a bend. Okay, and then we'll cut it off to where it's 5.5 inches again here. So the question is, what dimension do we have here? Well, each of these signatures, you can see when I hold it up, it's not quite 1/4 inch thick. It's probably between 3/16 and 1/4 inch thick. Okay, so we want to have room for that signature, and we want to have room to put stuff in it, because that's the, that's why we like junk journals, is we throw some junk in there, besides that they're made from junky kind of stuff. So we want to center that around this line. So we're going to say that we need 1/4 inch for that. So we need 1/4 inch for this too. And 1/4 inch for this, and so on. So 1/4 inch for each of 6 things would make 6/4 of an inch, which is 1.5 inches. That's already 1.5 inches. Now, if we put 1/8 of an inch in between there, we'll have 1/8 of an inch in between each one of these. Okay, so that's, but since they're between, there are only 5. So it's 5 times 1/8. So that's going to be 5/8, obviously. So we have 1.5 for all those quarters, plus the 5/8 would be 2 1/8. Plus we want a little bit of room here between the fold and that first signature. And since we're going to have our cover board glued on the inside of that, then we also have to think about how thick that cover board is. Well, my cover board is 1/8 of an inch thick. So if we count my cover board as 1/8 of an inch, plus let's say we want 1/8 of an inch to give this some room. So we would put 2/8 of an inch, which is 1/4 inch, before we ever get to this signature. So we're going to add 1/4 inch there and 1/4 inch there, which means that we're going to add another 1/2 inch, which means that we'll have 2 5/8 as our total cover. From here, from this band to this band, is going to be 2 5/8. But we said that we want to have 1/4 inch here, and then half of this one, this actual signature, half of it would be 1/8. So we're going to do 3/8 from that band to the first. Each of these measurements here will be 3/8 of an inch. Okay, and there are 7 of them because there are 6 signatures. So in between the board and the first signatures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, So we have our scoreboard. You can do it if you don't have a scoreboard. You just have to do a lot of measuring. But a scoreboard is invaluable in these, so I'm just going to use mine. We're going to start out with the, it's got a kind of a rough side and a smooth side to this, but we're going to use the rough side on the inside. And we're going to start with 5.5 because that's where our cover is going to be, 5.5. And this is kind of heavyweight stuff, so we're going to do that. And I'm going to actually put a score where each of these things are going to be. Each of our signatures are going to add in. So I'm doing 3/8 of an inch, so that means 3 of these little marks for that. And I have to do it 1 time for the bend and then 6 times for our signatures, each 3/8 of an inch apart. 1, 2, 3, and just count them as you do it. Okay, that's one signature, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 signatures. Now we have to do where the bend is going, and the bend is where the where the cover will be. And so now we'll cut this off. Now we could just leave that, and then when we've got our stuff all together, like we've got our bend there as our first where the cover is, between the cover and the first signature. This is the cover, okay. So this is the cover on the back. Now if we decide to, instead of cutting that off, excuse me, we could use that to wrap around our book and just make it a cover, the closure like that, so that it closes by having this wrap around. So if we're going to do that, then we just leave that on there and we don't have to worry about how big it is. We'll just glue our covers on once we get them nicely put together, and we're ready to get started. And that's how we get our cover started. And I think I am going to leave that on there. I'm going to make another bend probably at the 5/8, but I'll actually do that after I glue my cover inside on, so that I'll know exactly where to bend it. But it should actually be, and we should be able to measure this. If this is at 4, if this thing is at 4, then it should be 5.5 inches from there. So that would be 9.5. So it should be right there where it covers, where the cover gets bent, because it's 5.5 inches wide. Oops, right there. So we have a book now that's a cover, and we have to glue our outside on and our inside on, outside or inside and outside, and then we have to sew in our signatures, and sewing in the signatures will be the next thing that I do. So that's all for now. Thank you. If you like this, you can press the like button, subscribe, give me a comment, whatever you like to do. Thank you. Bye-bye.